Eagles will try to snap a 3-game losing streak as they will head to the Boot State. They will take on the ULM Warhawks, and we are
I'm so happy to see him.
Oh, my God. I love it. Happy to be joined now by the voice of the ULM Warhawks, Nick White. Nick, what's going on, man?
Hey, guys. Getting set for a coach's show here and just enjoying some gumbo on this cold Monday, and glad to be with you guys.
God, I'm envious.
Are you about to Hawk talk?
We are about to Hawk talk, yes. Coach Richard will be joining me here in about 25 minutes.
Didn't think that would happen.
No, I don't think so. But take us into this ULM team, Nick. 10-10 on the season, 2-6 in conference play. What is it about this team that has gone right and not gone right?
Well, what has not gone right is COVID. We've had major issues with that through the first 3 weekends. Now, we're one of 3 teams that have played all 8 of our conference ball games. And look, one thing you can say about Coach Richard is if they got 7 guys and 1 coach, we're going to play ball. And that happened at UTA where we ended up, playing with 7 guys. And we had 2 guys out, starters, in Andre Jones, Kareem Ozier, due to COVID protocols. And then that morning, literally, I was getting ready to go to the College Park Center, and I found out Langston Howell tested positive for the flu. And so literally had 2 guards for the entire ball game, went to overtime. And really just, I've done a ton of games, over 350 men's basketball games at ULM over my time. I don't know if I've been as proud of a team as I was, a couple Saturdays ago against UTA and winning that ball game and gutting that one out in overtime. But this past weekend, we had everybody back healthy, and you're running into 2 really good teams. Troy shot the lights out, 69% in the first half, and then, cooled off down to 60% for the entire ball game. They finally closed out 1 for 7 from the field in the final 5 minutes, but it was still just too much. ULM able to close the gap to 8, but just not enough to win that ball game. And then, South Alabama, they really won it defensively. They switched to a 2-3 zone, and the Warhawks really, really, really struggled against that. They ended up with 18 turnovers in that ball game, ton of points off turnovers for South Al. I thought ULM's defense was right there on point, but you just can't turn the basketball over that much, and that's what they did. And so you ask, what's going right and what's going wrong. Not a lot is going right for this team. They were playing really good before the Christmas break. And Coach, I remember talking to him, and he talked about how much he did not want to go to break, and kind of had it rolling. And really, since coming back from Christmas break, just because of the COVID situations that we've had and all the different things, it just it hasn't, in the first 4 weeks of conference play, it hasn't clicked. And this is such a pivotal weekend for us, and really for Georgia Southern and Georgia State. Whenever you look at the standings and where we're at, we're looking at seeding. It's a pretty big weekend in Monroe for us to fan here.
I think about the last time we saw you guys on a basketball court. It's only been not even 2 years ago, but I look up and down this roster. I see, I kind of remember Langston Powell. And on your side, you can look at ours and say, there's Elijah McCadden. Outside of this, we haven't seen any of your guys. You haven't seen any of Georgia Southern's guys. And from your standpoint, it seems like the offense has really improved. You're second in the league in scoring, nearly 76 a game.
Yeah, but that's kind of sputtered as of late. And I think, the scout is out on us, and they've kind of figured it out. I mean, only 58 points and 56 points this past week on Saturday against South Alabama. And obviously the UTA game, we had a completely different game plan. Coach scrapped the game plan once Langston went out and really kind of took the air out of the basketball, played a lot of zone defense, and try to really limit the possessions. But yeah, still, I mean, there's some offensive capabilities there. The big story, I think, whenever you look at conference numbers, Nika Metz-Clarishvili, have fun with that, Danny, on Thursday night.
I was going to make him say it first.
Just call him Nika whenever you're in game action. But whenever it's a big 3, that's Clarishvili. He's really played so well in conference play. Yes, I'm showing off to you guys as well. He's really played so well inside conference play and has been the pleasant surprise. He might be the best player on ULM right now. And then Russell Harrison has really, stepped up his game. And obviously Andre Jones, Kareem Ozier, they missed a couple of ball games. But whenever you look at this team, those guys really have to continue to produce at a high level. And I don't think they did this past weekend. I think that both teams did a good job on Nika and really kind of shutting him down. and yet he still found a way to go get his. But you really got to have 4 guys scoring in double figures for this team to be able to have a chance. And right now, at least over the past weekend, we just did not get that opportunity to get those guys going.
You brought up Russell Harrison, somebody who's scoring 13 points, nearly 6 rebounds a game, is most on the team for a guy who seems more like a 3-man at 6'7" slasher. But in reading some things about him from last year to this year, it seems like Coach Richard has really tried to get him to focus on his rebounding, especially on the offensive end. And looking at the numbers from last to this, it seems like some of the message has been received.
Yeah, and he's done a really good job on the defensive boards. He had a career high against UTA, 12 defensive rebounds, 13 overall. Has really improved that area of the game. And if you remember about Russ, he went into last season. I know you guys didn't see him last year, just like we didn't see you guys. And you're right, a completely different roster. But that's pretty much every team inside the league. South Alabama, I mean, they got so many transfers. It's like a deep Power 5 transfer group over there with South Alabama. And that's kind of every team in the league right now. But Russ came in as a first-team junior college All-American last year, and he disappointed. He didn't play good at all. He's finally started to have it click. And whenever we've needed big shots, he's been the guy to step up and really be that guy. And so, over these last 10 ball games that are scheduled, hopefully he can continue to elevate his level of play. Everybody gets another year, and I'm excited to see if he sticks around how good he could really be, going through these final 10 games and then obviously next year.
Somebody that we've talked about a lot, not necessarily on air with you, but Keith Richard, his 11th year at ULM, somebody that is widely respected across the league.
Love that guy.
Is somebody that knows the state of Louisiana probably better than anybody, maybe more than Jay Walker. We won't tell him that. But what is it about Keith Richard?
Don't do anything to prop up Jay Walker's ego, okay? So don't do anything. We know he's old, and that's it. That's all that matters about Jay, okay?
But what is it about Coach Richard that makes him such a institution at ULM and really the state of Louisiana?
Well, he spent pretty much his entire career in the state of Louisiana, which is almost unheard of. He had a couple of years early in his career. He was at Marshall, but for the most part, he's been in the entire state. He had all those years at Louisiana Tech, which he'll never get the credit for how good of a job he did at Louisiana Tech. He was a 150 and 117 in his 9 years at Tech, and that was whenever they were in the WAC. Whenever the WAC was a 3-bid league, and he had a guy still playing in the NBA, and Paul Millsap, had a couple other pros, did a really, really great job, and I don't think ever fully gets the credit he deserves. And then I really throw out the first 3 years at ULM. Georgia Southern was not in the league, so maybe I know you guys know the history, but maybe Georgia Southern fans don't understand. We were on the brink of the death penalty due to APR issues from the previous coach whenever coach took over, and he sacrificed his record for the betterment of his university. He's an alum. He played point guard at ULM. He loves this place. He is an institution here. He's in his, double-digit seasons, and his record is not indicative of how good of a job he's really done. And you guys came in the league, and I look at some of these epic battles, in y'all's early years, and I mean, we should have been an NCAA tournament team, and Georgia Southern should have been an NCAA tournament team as well. But we're unfortunately going to be a 1-bid league. But there were some really good battles, and we've had some dog fights there in Hanner, and I look forward to coming back there, I believe, to close out the season.
Yeah.
But, Coach is I've known Coach. I did his coach's show back whenever he was at Louisiana Tech, and obviously I've called every single game over his time here. He and I started the very first game at Texas Tech back in the 2010 season, and we've been together. So, he's an interesting cat, and I'll talk to him here in a little bit. And he won't be happy about the 2 losses, but he and I have a great respect for each other, and I think the fans around here have that as well.
All right, number one, you've got to tell him that we said hello because we think he's a dog. We think he's an outstanding guy. I cannot wait to see him once we get down there. But also, we were talking a little bit early about Hanner Fieldhouse. It's the oldest facility in the league. Ewing Coliseum isn't too far behind that. You guys celebrating your 50th anniversary of its opening in 71. Richard talked about going there as a senior in high school, ended up playing for Coach Vining, first NCAA tournament team in 82. What has it been like from your standpoint celebrating 50 years of Fant Ewing?
Well, it's been awesome, and I'm fortunate to get really lucky in what I do, and I'm from the area. I did not go to ULM, but I grew up in this area, so I followed, going to games and going in the early years of Fant Ewing. I remember, one time getting to go in there and think it's the coolest thing ever just to go and shoot hoops on the old tartan floor that they had. I mean, and just the battles that they had in there. And it's been awesome this year. And obviously, you guys will get it, to have Coach Vining just sitting at the same table that we are, and he's doing the ESPN Plus games now as far as the color analysis. And you got a legend right there, 402 wins, right there beside you, and just the wealth of knowledge. It's pretty cool. And obviously that building needs some TLC, no doubt, just like Hanner has gotten some TLC and will need it. But you guys know my affinity for that place. I love going to Hanner Fieldhouse, and you guys love coming to Fant Ewing. We may be the only broadcast crews that like going to each other's facilities, but I love going to a game at Hanner. I can't remember Nick Capola. We had an overtime game there, and I remember, he hit a big three, and we won in overtime. And I remember the fans and everything, they were kicking me in the back, hitting me in the head, and all this stuff.
That's because they liked
got really excited. Well, if you say so, yeah. I mean, look at me. I mean, who couldn't like me? But it's just a really cool place. I love the intimacy of the place, and again, Fant Ewing doesn't have that intimate feel, but it's got that old school Coliseum feel.
Yeah.
And if we can, and you guys have been in there, where it's gotten loud, that place would get loud just like Hanner will get loud. And so I think you do have a home court advantage if we get the fans to show up, the students. It can be a really cool place to play.
Nick, appreciate the time. I know you've got to go get to Hawk Talk coming up here in about 15 minutes or so. Appreciate you taking some time with us, bud.
Well, I'm going to finish my gumbo first, and then, yes, I'll get to Hawk Talk. I look forward to seeing you guys here in a few days. Y'all have a safe trip.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Nick. Once again, Nick White, the voice of the ULM Warhawks, one of the best in the business.
Have not seen him since Media Day because no ULM during football season. So this will be the first time since July, whatever it was, down in Nolans.
That's right. Wow.
When you really break it down, when we see each other and we realize how long it's been going place to place, that's 7 months, 6 months.
Man. We need to have these reunions again. We had the Zoom reunions whenever everything was on quarantine. And normally it's the basketball tournament and the baseball tournament is where we have our full-blown reunions. But
think about the tournament in Pensacola last year. I know you didn't get a chance to go. There was some overlap doing baseball with women's basketball, and you call them that remotely. But that was the first time I think I'd seen Matt Stoltz and Josh Sowers in over a year.
Yeah, we were going through, and when's the last time I saw this person, this person, this person? It's crazy.
Has he joined us?
He's.
I thought I saw Raging Cajun.
No, it was here.
Pop in.
But going back to this ULM team, and there's always one team a year that seems like they have dealt with COVID more than anybody else.
Last year it was Georgia State.
Yeah. This year it's ULM.
But still, they played all 8 of their conference games, to Nick's point. Coach Richard is a guy that says, if I've got 7, I'm playing. I think he would try to convince his guys, if there were 4.5, that they would play. That's just the kind of coach that he is.
Yeah.
And even though they have a little bit more depth perceived this year, they could go 10 deep. He's still somebody that's only going to play 6 or 7 guys. He might get a couple of guys a minute or so here and there, but he likes his top 6. They're all going to play about 30 to 35 minutes. Sometimes their point guard, Elijah Gonzalez, he had a stretch where he played 85 minutes in 2 games. Now, one of those was the 45-minute overtime game against UT Arlington where they had 7 healthy bodies. So he played all 45. They had a guy come off the bench who played 41 minutes. That was Johnny Williams, the 4th. He had only played 50 minutes combined the previous 5 games. So it speaks to that point even more that if he's got his 7 that can play, he's going to play.
There have been some really good battles between Georgia Southern and ULM, too.
Yep. I can think about that team that he mentioned really early in Georgia Southern's Sun Belt tenure. The year before I got here, 14-15, they had a guy named Tyler Ongwai, who was one of the top rebounders in the league. Those two met in the semifinals. Georgia Southern eking out a close victory to take on Georgia State in the championship, and that was the 38-36 loss. But ULM could have very easily gone to the dance that year, and then the next year when they had DeMondre Harvey, they had Justin Robertson. They were a force. Majuk Dang was a senior that year. Georgia Southern got them in that meeting at Hanner Fieldhouse, but they hadn't figured some things out offensively. Nick Capola was on that team. But then the Eagles went to Fan Ewing, and by that time they were in the middle of their 10-game winning streak. They ran it all the way to the tournament championship, but they ran into Little Rock and Chris Beard and Brian Berg. They were up 9 at the half, but Little Rock came back and won. Even so, they have been successful enough over about a 5 or 6 year stretch. They have been regulars in the CIT and the CBI because they buy into those tournaments. They are able to rally so much local support for those, because I think it reminds them a lot of the Southland Conference in the early days of the Sun Belt. We were there for that Texas Southern game in 2019,
That's right.
the triple overtime game where Michael Ertl hit a 35-footer at the buzzer to send it into, I think that was to send it into the second overtime. Randy Peel was an assistant at that time for Texas Southern. We caught up with him after the game. He spent some time at Georgia Southern. That place was packed. Just like Hanner, you pack it, it's going to be loud. Fan Ewing was ballistic that night. Unfortunately, ULM didn't win, but that is the kind of following that they have developed, even though they've had a couple of rough years. This team is much better than what they've had the last 2 years. I don't know if it's as good as that 2018 team that had Deshaun Smith and was making threes left and right, but this is still a team, if they can get their combinations correct, this is a team that's capable of a lot.